The cold concrete of the city slept under a bruised, moonless sky. A wide, elevated view framed a department store. Its interior dimly lit by emergency exit signs. A cavern of consumer goods turned into a stage for terror. Two figures, anonymous in dark balaclavas, moved like shadows given purpose. They sprinted inside, and the silence shattered. First, alarm, terrified whisper, swallowed by the vast space. Then, screams raw, primal ricocheted off the high ceilings. The men burst back out into the night. Their adrenaline, a tangible force, stolen goods, clutched to their chests. Behind them, chaos bled from the store's entrance. A voice, shrill with panic, pierced the aftermath. "Ooh-wee! Wazy! Wazy!" A ripple of alarm spread through the sleeping neighborhood. Different homesteads' lights flicked on, one by one, like startled eyes. Doors slammed. The night air, once still, now thrummed with a low, gathering anger. An angry mob coagulated in the street. A many-limbed creature born of outrage. Sticks, stones, and the flickering, hungry light of torches were gathered. At a dusty crossroads, Juma, lean and wired with fear, and Jay, his eyes wide with the same terror, skidded to a halt. Their chests heaved, lungs burning. The sounds of pursuit were a storm at their backs. Juma pointed left, the gesture frantic, his breath coming in ragged gasps. For a split second, their eyes met. A lifetime of friendship flashed between them. "Let's," he started. The sound of footsteps and furious shouts closed in, a wall of noise. Panic overrode thought. Instinct took over. They split. Juma peeled left. Jay darted right into the deeper darkness. Jay's path led him straight into the arms of another section of the mob, emerging from a side alley. Hands, countless and ruthless, seized him. He was dragged down into the dust, a cry torn from his throat. Juma, halfway to his own escape, froze. He looked back, driven by a terror deeper than reason. He ducked into a thicket of tangled bushes. He peered through the lattice of branches, his body trembling violently. The scene before him was a nightmare painted in torchlight. The mob converged on Jay, beating him with a savage, rhythmic fury. A worn tire was produced, shoved over his head and shoulders, a grotesque necklace. A can of petrol appeared. The liquid arced through the air, catching the torchlight for a moment before it splashed over him. "Please, no," Jay sobbed, a desperate plea. The torches descended. Fire erupted with a soft whoosh. Jay's body became a pillar of flame. His shrieks were not human. They were the sound of pure agony, piercing the night and searing into Juma's soul. Juma clamped a hand over his own mouth, teeth sinking into flesh to silence his own scream. Tears carved hot paths through the dust on his cheeks as he watched the flames devour his friend. The mob stood in a silent semicircle. Their faces, illuminated by the hellish blaze, were etched not with triumph, but with a grim, righteous finality. They watched. In his small room, Juma bolted upright in a tangle of sweat-damp sheets, a guttural gasp tearing from his throat. He lurched over the side of the bed, vomiting violently into a waiting bucket. His old t-shirt was drenched. His breath came in ragged, uncontrollable heaves. He wiped his mouth with the back of a trembling hand, the taste of bile and memory sour on his tongue. The air at Jay's compound was thick with the scent of damp earth and murmured prayer. Mourners in somber clothes filled the small yard. Women sat clustered together, their soft, harmonic wails weaving through the silence. Aisha, Jay's widow, sat apart on a low stool, rigid as stone. In her arms she cradled baby Ethan, holding him too tightly. Her eyes, raw and swollen from endless tears, stared at nothing. Nearby, Jay's mother, Miriam was a tempest of sorrow. She sobbed uncontrollably as neighborhood women huddled around her. A small table, draped in a threadbare black cloth, served as a makeshift shrine. On it rested a framed photo of Jay smiling, forever young, a woven basket for contributions, and a few wilting flowers. A murmur, low and venomous, rippled through the crowd as Juma entered. All heads turned. A path cleared before him. Juma kept his eyes fixed on the ground, his shoulders slumped under an invisible burden. He moved to the table, placed a folded wad of notes gently into the basket. His gaze lifted, lingered on Jay's photo. His eyes glistened. Miriam saw him. Grief curdled into instant, white-hot fury. She surged up and strode toward him. "What are you doing here, murderer?" she shouted, her voice shattered. The crowd stiffened. Juma didn't answer. A single tear escaped down his cheek. "You left him to die. You might have as well been the one who killed him. It should have been you." Juma swallowed hard, the muscles in his jaw working. He turned slowly to leave. Miriam lunged forward, snatching the notes he just placed from the basket and hurling them at his retreating back. The money fluttered and scattered at his feet. "Take your dirty money with you." Juma didn't stop, didn't look back. He walked away, each step heavy, as the Boj mourners watched in a silence now pregnant with condemnation. His room was a tomb, illuminated by a single bare bulb that swung slightly, casting long, dancing shadows. Juma sat on the edge of his thin mattress, staring at the scattered notes on the floor. He rubbed his face with trembling hands, then clutched his head. Silent tears streamed down. He reached under the bed, his fingers closing around a bottle of cheap, fiery liquor. He unscrewed it with unsteady hands, tilted his head back, and drank deep, seeking oblivion. The liquor burned, but he didn't stop. Flash cuts assaulted him. Jay, a human torch, screaming his name. Miriam's voice, a ghost in his ear. "It should have been you." Aisha's blank, hollow stare. Ethan's small, reaching hand. Juma choked, coughing violently. In a surge of self-loathing, he hurled the bottle against the wall. It shattered spectacularly, brown liquid dripping down the paint. He collapsed forward, head buried in his hands, his body rocking. I'm sorry, he whispered. Broken. His eyes lifted, catching his reflection in a jagged shard of the broken glass on the floor. The eyes staring back were bloodshot, hollowed out, haunted. From outside, the sound of distant children laughing filtered in. He curled up on the bed, fetal, clutching his chest. A memory, warm and golden, surfaced. In Jay's living room, under the glow of a kerosene lamp, Aisha and Miriam sat shelling peas. Baby Ethan slept on the couch. Juma entered, offering a tentative smile. Mama, Aisha. Aisha returned the smile. Miriam's face stiffened. Juma crouched by Ethan, humming a soft tune, making the baby giggle in his sleep. Jay emerged, and they shared a quick fist bump. Jay, I think you should stay tonight, Miriam said, her voice laced with worry. Jay bent close, stroking her face. Mama, you worry too much. All will be well. I'll be back before you know it. He kissed her cheek. Then, Aisha's forehead tickled Ethan. And with a final wave, he and Juma stepped out into the waiting night. Outside, the night was still, only the hum of crickets. You have a loving family, Juma said, his voice thick. I know, Jay replied. That's why I must do this. They mean everything to me. Juma nodded, his eyes heavy. Together they disappeared into the consuming darkness. Back in his lonely present, Juma lay curled on his bed. Jay's photo clutched in his hands, His thumb brushed across the glass, tracing the smile. Tears slipped silently down his cheek. Suddenly, a sharp chime broke the silence. His old phone lit up. An SMS notification glowed on the screen. Interview confirmed. Janitor position. Tomorrow 9 a.m. Juma stared. A weak, involuntary smile tugged at the corner of his lips. A faint, fragile hope. The aggressive beeping of an alarm clock cut through the dawn quiet. Juma was already awake, staring at the water-stained ceiling. He took a deep, deliberate breath, the steadying breath of a man preparing for a battle. He dressed in his cleanest clothes, gathered his documents, and headed out. A long, snaking train of vehicles was locked in a standstill traffic jam. Juma sat in a crowded bus, checking the time again and again. Impatience won. He pushed his way out and took off running. He arrived at a sleek, modern restaurant, skidding to a halt, drenched in sweat. He made a desperate rush for the door, but was stopped by a security guard, who looked him up and down with open skepticism. "Unaenda wapi?" the guard asked. "Interview," Juma panted. "Wapi ID?" Juma's hands flew to his pockets. His eyes widened with panic. He had forgotten his ID card. "Aki sikubeba," he said. The guard was unmoved. "Basi huingi. Out. Enda ukuje na ID." Juma turned, then spun back, trying to duck under the guard's arm. The guard caught him. Other two guards stepped in. Together, they began to frog march him away. The commotion caught the eye of the restaurant manager, who stepped outside. "What's going on here?" the guard explained. The manager turned a stern gaze on Juma. "What do you want here?" "Sir, I came for an interview, but they would not let me in." Juma fumbled for his phone, showed the manager the SMS. The guard protested it could be fake. The manager read it, looked from the phone to Juma's desperate face. "Let him in," he said decisively. In a small, sterile office, the interview panelists were annoyed, already closing folders. "We're done. You're late," one snarled. "Please, just one chance," Juma pleaded. The manager, lingering in the doorway, gave a small nod. The interviewer sighed. "Fine. Sit." Juma perched on the edge of the chair. "Name. Why this job?" "Juma Mwaniki. I believe I can do it. I need to do it." "Experience?" "I've cleaned at food stalls, pop-up stands." "Not enough. We require a minimum of 2 years in a high-end establishment." "Give me a chance, I'll learn fast." "We don't have time to train. I'm sorry. It's not a good fit." The silence was a verdict. Juma rose slowly and left. Hours later, the restaurant glowed against the darkening sky. Juma sat on a low wall, a distance away, humming his tune softly. The manager walked out, heading for his car. Juma spotted him, ran up. "Excuse me, sir. You again? Why are you still here?" "I was waiting for you, sir." "Why?" The words spilled out in a desperate rush. "Please, I need this job. I'll clean the toilets. I'll work the nights. I'll take half pay. My friend, he died. I promised to care for his family. I can't fail them. I can't." The manager studied him. "The pay is small. 8,000. "Yes, sir. Anything. Be here by 8 tomorrow. Don't be late." "Yes, sir. Thank you, sir." The manager walked off. Juma exhaled, a long, trembling release, then broke into a quiet, disbelieving laugh of pure relief. Under the weak bulb in his room, Juma wrote in his diary. He paused, looked at Jay's photo, then continued, humming. He finished writing, opened his phone's voice recorder, and sang the tune clearly, a letter song, a promise set to melody. At the restaurant, in a janitor's uniform, Juma scrubbed the floor. He turned. accidentally bumping into a waiter. Sorry, she clicked her tongue loudly, eyed him with pure disdain, and walked off without a word. During a break in a dim service room, Juma sent his voice recording to a local studio. In his notebook, he drew a line through the studio's name. Days blurred into one another. Juma sending audio files, pages filling with hopeful entries, then being crossed out. In the manager's office, Juma was handed a thin envelope. He opened it, peeked inside at his first month's wages. A quiet, weary smile touched his lips. "Thank you, sir." That night, moving like a shadow, Juma placed a bag of groceries and a sealed envelope of cash at the doorstep of Jay's house. He knocked lightly and melted into the darkness. The door opened. Aisha peered out, saw no one, then found the bag. Inside, Miriam called out, "Must be from the Red Cross." Aisha hesitated, then shrugged, carrying the bag inside. From the shadows, Juma watched, relieved. He hummed his song as he walked away. In his room, Juma spread his remaining crumpled notes on the small table. He counted them once, twice. It was too little. He exhaled, a long, heavy sound of exhaustion. His eyes drifted to Jay's photo. A tired, resigned smile touched his lips. He clicked off the light. Months passed. Juma continued to drop supplies, always under the cover of darkness. One evening, cleaning a washroom, he softly sang his letter song. The manager entered, accompanied by a well-dressed man, Mr. Alexander Mackenzie. The manager began to hush him, but Alexander raised a hand. Juma turned, startled, and fell silent. "Sorry, sirs. You sing well," Alexander said, smiling. "Ever think of doing something with that voice?" He handed Juma a crisp business card. "When you do, call me." Juma took the card, stunned. Another night, Juma set a bag down at Jay's doorstep. This time, the door swung open violently before he could knock. Aisha stood there, arms crossed, eyes glaring. I knew it. The Red Cross was too good to be true. "You think this fixes anything?" Miriam appeared. Behind her, her face a mask of hatred. "What are you doing here, murderer? Nothing will ever right what you did, unless you bring back my son." "We don't need your help," Aisha said. "Leave, now." Juma turned to go. "Take your cursed things with you." Juma stopped. He turned back, his composure cracking. "Every day is hell for me. You think I don't hurt? I wish it was me who burned, not him. He should be here caring for you. But he's not. And I'm just trying to keep my promise, that you'd never lack." Aisha's face softened. Miriam's remained stone. "Good. Suffer. You'll never know peace. Now go." Juma walked away. Miriam turned to Aisha. "Throw it away." She stormed inside. Aisha lingered, looked after Juma, then down at the bag. After a long beat, she picked it up and shut the door. Days later, in Jay's home, Ethan's cries were sharp, uncontrollable. Aisha rocked him frantically. "He's burning up. I need to take him to the hospital. I have no money." "Nothing left," Miriam said, helpless. Aisha grabbed her phone, desperate. An urgent knock at the door. Miriam opened it. Juma stood there. Wordlessly, she stepped aside. Juma rushed in. Aisha handed him the burning child. Juma bolted out the door, Aisha running close behind. Hours later, Ethan slept peacefully on the couch. Aisha sat close, watching him. Juma stood beside her. Miriam glared from her seat in the corner. "The doctor says he'll be fine. Just monitor him," Juma said. Aisha nodded. Juma slipped a fold of money into her hand. In case you need more. Thank you, Juma. I'll go now. I'll walk you out. They exited, leaving Miriam alone, her eyes burning. Days passed. Juma visited openly to check on Ethan. Aisha greeted him with warmth. Miriam watched every interaction with growing, seething contempt. One night, Aisha and Juma stood talking quietly near the gate. Miriam stormed past them, shooting a look of pure disgust, and slammed the door shut behind her. I should go, Juma said. Thank you, Juma, for everything. Don't mention it. They shared a look that lasted a moment too long before parting. Inside, Miriam sat waiting. Aisha entered. I knew you were cheap. I didn't know you were gullible, too, Miriam said, her voice dripping with venom. One kind act, and you're already falling for him. My son's body is not even cold. There is nothing between us, Mama. Don't insult my intelligence. I see how you look at him, how you laugh with him, in my son's house. He's been helping with Ethan, that's all. He's the only one who has. If he hadn't let my son die, none of this help would be needed. Aisha's anger simmered. But Jay isn't here, is he? And we are. Miriam rose, fury boiling over. My son should never have married you. I told him you were a gold digger, a street girl with no morals. Excuse me? You never loved him. You loved what he gave you. And now, look at you already moving on. No shame at all. Aisha stood her ground, angry. Don't you dare. Everything I do is for Ethan. If accepting help to keep your grandson alive makes me cheap, then so be it. She turned and stormed away, leaving Miriam seething. At the restaurant, it was at its peak, a symphony of clinking glasses and conversation. Juma scrubbed a spill, humming. A waiter stormed over. You. Manager wants you. Now. In the ballroom. Juma stiffened, wiped his hands, and followed. The ballroom was a world apart. Chandeliers dripped light onto gowns and tuxedos. Juma entered, his simple uniform a glaring anomaly. At a VIP table, Mr. Alexander waved him over. Seated next to him was Mr. Dell, a sharp-eyed man who assessed Juma with detached interest. Dell, this is the lad I told you about. The voice from the washroom. A pause. Alexander says your voice is worth polishing, Dell said. He gestured to a small podium. Show me. Now. Juma froze. Alexander put a steadying hand on his back. I see. The same fire in your eyes that dragged me out of the gutter. Go on. Let it out. Juma walked to the podium. His hands were damp, trembling. He gripped the mic stand, closed his eyes, and took a deep breath. At first, his voice cracked with fear. He steadied himself. Then, the voice that emerged was pure, aching, powerful. It soared, cutting through the chatter. The ballroom hushed. All heads turned. He finished. A profound silence hung for a beat. Then thunderous applause erupted. Back at the table, Alexander stood, beaming. Dell remained seated, unmoved. You wrote that? Dell asked. Yeah, Juma said, shy. I've seen boys like you. Voices born of hunger, of pain. But hunger burns fast. The question is, can you endure after the fire dies down, when it's just work? Juma was quiet. See you tomorrow. My studio. Don't be late. Juma's face broke into a beam of stunned joy. Thank you, sir. In his house that night, a sharp, insistent knock jolted Juma awake. He opened the door. Aisha stood there, Ethan asleep in her arms, bags at her feet. Can we come in? She asked. He hesitated, then nodded. ushering them in. I couldn't stay there anymore, she sighed. What happened? She says we plotted Jay's death together, that we wanted to be together, so we got him killed. Juma flinched. Then it's my fault. If I'd kept my distance. No. You tried to help. You have helped. She's grieving in her own terrible way. Silence stretched. Take the bed. You and Ethan. I'll figure the rest out in the morning. Thank you, Juma. She settled Ethan on the narrow bed, curling protectively around him. Juma watched them for a beat, then forced himself onto the hard couch. Morning sunlight filtered in. Juma, dressed for work, tied his shoes. Aisha stirred. Morning. Didn't want to wake you. Breakfast there, he said, nodding toward the stove. Okay. I'll see you tonight. Thank you, Juma. It's nothing. He left. Aisha got up, picked at the food, her eyes scanning the tiny, bare room, the few possessions. The photo of Jay. The palpable loneliness. Walking home that night, a spring in his step, Juma clutched a folded contract from Mr. Dell's studio. He hummed the letter song, hope warming him. From a dense thicket by the roadside, 4 hulking goons lurched out. They closed on him fast. Before he could react, they shoved him to the ground. Fists and boots landed on him, a savage, methodical beating. He tried to scream, but the street was deserted. They beat him until he was a curled, bloody heap. One leaned down, his breath hot in Juma's ear. You don't get to be happy. Not while Jay's bones are cold. Love from Miriam. They vanished. Juma lay there, groaning, the precious contract slick with his own blood. In Jay's home, Miriam sat alone. Jay's photo was in her hands. She stroked his face as if carving it into memory. Tears spilled, then hardened into something colder. I'm sorry, Jay. I failed you, she whispered, her voice breaking, then snapping with resolve. Over my dead body, will I let that murderer take what's yours? Her eyes burned. In Juma's house, he lay on the couch, a swollen eye, a split lip, blood dried along his temple. Aisha knelt beside him, cleaning a cut. He winced. You need a doctor. No hospital. What if you've got internal bleeding? I'm fine. No, you're not. Juma reached for her hand. His fingers trembled. If I go, they'll want to know who did this. The hospital will call the police. I'll have to give a statement. Who did it? Some boys, sent by Miriam. You should press charges. There's no need. What do you mean? You could have died. I didn't. Do you even love yourself? He squeezed her hand. If I press charges, she'll be arrested. Good, she deserves it. You said she's grieving. Grief isn't an excuse to hire thugs. Let her grieve. I don't blame her. Jay should be here, not me. A beat. A hard, shared look. Days passed. Aisha tended Juma's wounds. Juma fixed Ethan's toy. They shared. Quiet. Coffees. His bruises faded. One day, Juma tinkered with a toy. Aisha brought 2 mugs, handed him one, sat close. I hear him in my dreams, he said, haunted. He calls my name. I see his eyes, the wrong turn. Aisha set her mug down. I was so angry. I wanted you to suffer, to die like he did. Juma nodded at his fading bruises. Almost got your wish. A faint, awkward smile. Their eyes locked, something unspoken between them. A sharp knock at the door. Then another. They exchanged a look. Aisha opened it. The chief, in a local security uniform, stood flanked by neighborhood elders. Miriam stormed in behind them, unleashing a torrent of accusations. Whispers of conspiracy, of Aisha running away with the man who killed her son. Her voice cracked with grief and venom. The chief lifted a hand, patient but firm. Mama J, I understand your pain. But my job is peace. I don't settle family quarrels on hearsay. He turned to Aisha, softer. Aisha, is it true you and the child have been staying here? Aisha steadied herself, glanced at Juma. Yes, Chief. She chased me out. Said I plotted with Juma. I had nowhere to go. Juma gave us shelter. The chief looked to Juma. Juma, are you aware of these accusations? Yes, Chief. I'm only trying to help. That's all. The chief studied them, then faced Miriam. His tone hardened. We are a community of law, not mob justice. If you have evidence of a crime, take it to the police. Otherwise, your words and actions are creating unrest. This is your final warning. Stop the harassment, or I will take further action. Miriam erupted, calling Juma every name, but the chief did not budge. He wrote in his notebook, If I hear of more harassment or violence, I will act. He left. The elders followed. Miriam stood, humiliated, eyes burning. Before she turned away, she leaned in, her voice low and lethal. You think this ends here? I will take my grandson, one way or another. He is all I have left. She stormed off. Aisha, shaken, stepped into Juma's arms. He held her tight as Miriam's figure retreated, grief made ferocious. In Juma's house the next morning, they ate breakfast in silence. Only glances exchanged. Juma finished, grabbed his jumper. See you in the evening. Aisha nodded. He left. She cleared the table. While tidying, Juma's diary slipped to the floor, opening to the page with the letter song Jay's photo tucked inside. She picked it up. Reed sat on the bed. A tear fell. That night, Juma entered, tired. He stopped. Aisha sat on the bed, the diary open beside her. He froze, instantly knew. It's beautiful, she said softly. I wrote it for Jay. So, all this? It's guilt? A heavy pause. Jay was my brother. We grew up together, dreamed together. He defended me from the world. And when it was my turn to defend him, I hid, watched from a bush while they set him ablaze. He screamed for me and he choked up. I did nothing. His eyes brimmed with tears. Aisha crossed to him, placed her arms around him. He collapsed into the hug, sobbing. They pulled back. Their faces were close, breaths mingling. Aisha leaned in. Juma pulled away, trembling. I'm sorry. It's okay. An awkward silence. Aisha steadied herself. I've been thinking, maybe I should go back home. Juma didn't answer. His silence was enough. Aisha gathered Ethan and her bags. She paused at the door, glanced back at him, then left. Juma reached for the diary. Closed. It pressed it against his chest. He dropped onto the couch, crushed, alone. A gentle knock at Jay's home later. Miriam opened. Aisha stood there with Ethan in her arms. Miriam pulled her in, clutching her tight. I missed you. She took Aisha's bags. Aisha slipped inside wordlessly. Later, Aisha returned after laying Ethan down. Miriam waited. I knew you'd come back to your senses. I came back for Ethan, nothing else. My grandson should never have been near that thief, that murderer. Aisha's voice was quiet, cutting. Jay was a thief too. He just wasn't lucky. Miriam froze, her face twisting. My son was a good man, an honorable man. No, denying it won't change the truth. Miriam bristled. You dare stand under my roof and I don't desecrate him. Aisha interrupted, firm. You do, with your rage. You blame Juma for his death. But what about us? We knew what Jay was doing. We said nothing. We enjoyed the money, the gifts. We let him burn. If Juma is guilty, then so are we. Silence. Miriam's lips trembled. Aisha stared at her, then turned away, disappearing into the inner rooms. Miriam was left alone, shaking. Behind her, Jay's photos stared down from the wall. At the studio, Juma stood in the recording booth, headphones on, eyes shut. He started to sing smooth, vulnerable, but his voice cracked mid-verse. He tried again. Same result. Frustrated, he ripped the headphones off. Behind the glass, Mr. Dell tapped the mic. "Step out a sec." Juma entered the control room. "What's going on? Feels like I made a mistake," Juma said, struggling. "What kind of mistake?" Juma touched his chest. "I can't explain it. It just hurts." Mr. Dell studied him, a knowing smile. "That's not pain. That's love." Juma stiffened, looked away. "No, I can't." "The more you run from it, the heavier it gets." Juma exhaled, lost. "What am I supposed to do?" "Simple. Tell them." Juma shook his head, almost laughing at himself. "Yeah, no." Mr. Dell shrugged. "Your choice." Juma slipped the headphones back on, returned to the booth. This time, his voice soared clear, powerful, raw. Mr. Dell leaned back, impressed, a small grin on his lips. "There he is," he muttered. The day of the showcase arrived. A restless sea of guests, journalists, and musicians gathered outside the studio. Cameras flashed. Backstage, Juma paced like a caged lion. Mr. Dell and Mr. Alexander flanked him. "Nerves mean you care. You ready?" Dell asked. Juma exhaled sharply. Alexander clapped his shoulder. "Tonight, you rise. Own it." On stage, the host strode forward. "Nairobi, make some noise for Phoenix." The crowd erupted. Juma stepped forward, the lights blinding. He gripped the mic. Tap, tap. Silence fell. His eyes swept the audience. "I wrote this piece for someone special to me. A brother, a friend, someone who's gone from this life to the next." The audience grew still. In Jay's home, Miriam and Aisha sat on the couch. Aisha idly flipped channels, then stopped, frozen. The broadcast showed Juma on stage. "I wrote this piece for someone special to me." Aisha lowered the spoon. Her chest tightened. Miriam sat rigid, eyes fixed. On the screen, on TV, Juma sang, every word aching. Aisha's grip on Ethan faltered. He wriggled free, toddled toward the TV. He paused in front of the screen, staring at Juma's face. A small smile spread across his lips. He pressed his tiny palm against the glass. Aisha saw this, tears welling. She hugged Ethan close, trembling. On stage, Juma strummed the last note. The song died. A heavy silence, then thunderous applause erupted. Tears streamed across faces in the audience. Juma lifted his eyes to the sky. "Love you, Jay. Always." He lowered the mic, took a long breath. His gaze landed straight on the camera. "And Aisha, I love you. I'm sorry I was too much of a coward to say it sooner." Gasps rippled. He steadied himself. "And to Jay's mother, I can never apologize enough. I failed him. I hope someday you find it in your heart to forgive me." His voice broke. He stepped back, raw, exposed. The applause surged back. In Jay's home, on TV, Juma's confession echoed. Aisha's hand stopped midair. Her breath caught. Frozen. Across the room, Miriam stiffened. Her eyes welled instantly, but she blinked hard, refusing to let the tears fall. She rose abruptly and disappeared into the inner room. Clutching the doorframe, her back to Aisha, her grief finally breaking through. A car horn blared as it pulled into Jay's compound. Aisha opened the door. The car stopped. Juma stepped out, followed by Mr. Dell. Aisha froze. Juma approached slowly. Aisha, I'm sorry. I wasn't brave enough to tell you how I felt. He looked deep into her eyes. She smiled faintly, then embraced him. The door creaked open. Miriam stepped out. Juma stiffened, releasing Aisha. Mom, I'm sorry. For everything. Jay deserved better. I should have protected him. I ran. I left him. His blood will always be on my hands. Tears broke from Juma's eyes. You're right, Miriam said. I will never forgive you for leaving him to die. He trusted you, and you ran. Juma dropped his gaze, sobbing silently. But I won't fight you anymore. Aisha and Ethan are all I have left, and I've seen how Aisha looks at you. Juma looked at Aisha. She took his hand gently. Ethan lights up when you're around. For their sake, I'll call a ceasefire. Miriam turned and walked back into the house. Juma broke down. Aisha held him, stroking his back. A memory surfaced. A dusty road. Young Juma and young Jay trudged along with heavy sacks of scrap metal. They passed other kids in crisp uniforms, laughing and chasing each other. They slowed, watching. Silence hung. Only the clinking of metal. Someday, bro, we're gonna make it, young Jay said. I hope so, young Juma replied quietly. Jay stopped, dropped his sack, gripped Juma's shoulder. Believe it. I'll be a pilot, flying everywhere. Juma smiled. And I'll be a musician, famous, singing to crowds. Jay beamed, leaning in. Then I'll be your pilot, flying you on tour. They burst out laughing. Jay stuck out his pinky. Pact. We'll have better lives. Juma hooked his pinky with Jay's. They held it as the setting sun painted them gold. At the launch of the J Foundation for Hope and Second Chances, Juma, Aisha, and Miriam cut the ribbon together. Applause. Children rushed inside, laughing. A few ex-convicts entered quietly, greeted with kindness. Juma stood with Ethan in his arms, Aisha leaning on his chest. Miriam watched with softened eyes. Ethan giggled and reached out, his tiny hand. Juma hooked his pinky with Ethan's. A flash cut. Young Juma and Jay's pinkies locking at sunset. Their laughter echoed faintly, back to the present. Juma smiled through tears. Holding Ethan closed the pact Reborn. The sun dipped low, golden light wrapping them.